Blake, are you excited for our new segment?
Yeah, the Torture Toby time? Heck yeah, I am.
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who is ready to break the Geneva Convention against my co-host here, and I'm with my co-host who has been waterboarded more than 0 times in his life, Toby Walters.
You always see that stuff in movies and you think, oh, I would totally hold out. Like, I would never give up the location of my family or the gold or whatever it is. And I think in reality, Blake, I would give up in like, as soon as I saw the first drop coming down, I'd be like, it's heading under the shed.
You just give up your kids and wife that fast.
Because I'm an Enneagram 7, so I am deeply afraid of anything that is uncomfortable or painful. It's kind of my thing to avoid all that stuff. So I started a company. So
I'm well aware. Yeah. They're contradictory. The company gave you freedom and a lot of time in therapy.
Yes. And I'm very excited about our new segment, and we'll get to that later in the episode. But
Torture Toby time is going to be iconic.
No. So our friends at House Right have helped us put together a little game, which we lovingly refer to as Baffling Blake. But it does have like a whole name.
An unofficial title?
Yeah. What are some of those, like deeply historical, like the third, the generation, blah, 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 blah. So the real full official name of Baffle Blake is Baffling Blake with bits of information about blunders, blessings, and boom mics bordering on buffoonery.
I think Torture Toby time is still better. Are
you impressed that I said that so
you didn't
smoothly?
I do wish that you had messed it up the first time.
Yeah.
I don't like that you got it right the first time.
You're welcome. It's because I recently spent some time in Florida. Blake, you know that I went down to Florida, and I don't know what Exponential was thinking, but they let me. I think it was because Terry Rhodes from Avenue Systems was with me to make sure I didn't say it's kind of like this podcast.
Who's the chaperone here? Last night at church, I was walking up and 4 of my troublemaker boys, they saw me and they were like, shh, Blake's coming. And I thought, oh, I'm the authority to make you not do nonsense? That's hilarious.
That is dangerous. So at Exponential, I got to speak on worship and production on a budget. And that's kind of our thing. We love to help churches come up with less expensive ways to do wonderful things.
How can it be on a budget? There is no budget.
I never had a budget.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes. So I don't know what these phantom budgets are, but I'm very excited to see one day, what that's like. But, being down there, Blake, I turn on my full personality to promote church gear. And it's a lot, just like you're a lot. And people ask me kind of like, are you like this all the time? And I have to say, no, I'm not. Like, I'm putting on my podcast, Toby. But
I think it's still a certain part of you, though. It's not an act. It's just a different piece of you.
It does have a battery life, though. Like it will. You've seen it at Philo. Like it drains and then it starts to blink. Like warning, 10% left, and you can just see the light fade from my eyes.
I'm still going to say it. Toby slept for an hour under our table at Philo on day 2.
Yeah, I had to recharge. And Blake, we recently, just a couple nights ago, we went out to dinner with some friends of ours, and you were being Blake. You're being full Blake mode. Were you holding back at all?
I really don't hold back anymore, Toby. No. That's why you've ruined me for other jobs. I just can't put the jack back in the box. And so near the end of dinner, they asked you, Blake, is this for, and they're asking the whole table, they're asking, the rest of us at Church Gear, is this real or is this like a shtick? And people have asked that since you've come aboard here day one and started, running your mouth. And Blake, do you even know if it's real or a shtick? Like, is there a small percentage that you're confused about? Toby, I keep a list of questions to ask my therapist. And after our dinner with them, I wrote down, am I the bit or has the bit become me? Because I think it's just all one thing now.
I think that's true for everybody. Yeah, we all have kind of like the light and the shadow side. And so I don't know which is which with you, but
we're getting way too deep here.
I know.
For a podcast.
Yeah.
Let's get a little more nonsense.
Okay. Should we bring on someone to help us with nonsense?
What if we bring on the light to our shadow?
Oh, there you go.
Speaking of, let's bring on the Chief Solutions Officer, Brad Hill. Brad, are you ready to bring the light to this podcast?
Hey guys. I mean, you were just going like full Truman Show there for a minute. Like maybe this whole thing is a bit. But,
we're on camera, except we know it. Are there other cameras we don't know about?
Toby, I have a camera on you most times of your life.
As you should. And Blake, I want to specify that Brad Hill is the Chief Solutions Officer of Gloo. He's not just the Chief Solutions Officer of the world. You didn't specify who.
But the world could really use a chief solutions officer.
It really could. And what better name than Brad Hill?
You trust
Like,
Brad
that
Hill?
sounds made up. It sounds like AI created like the ideal leader, Brad Hill. It sounds very official, Brad.
I think the title, the chief solutions, in some ways, guys, I bet a lot of your audience feel that way because my standing joke is it just means that people like to bring problems, and I get to sit here and try to be solution oriented. So I think, and I love tech, I love AV, I love the church. So this is a fun place to hang out and love what you guys are doing.
I think we should give unofficial titles now to all the production people out there. Chief Solutions Officer.
I like that.
I like that. They don't have pastors in their titles. So if they're, production chief solutions officer.
We tried to make the black shirts work as like the name for our podcast audience. Should we just be the chief solution officers?
The Chisos?
That doesn't really work.
I know.
That's not a hill I would die on.
Yeah.
But I would die on Brad's hill.
Hey, there it is.
And Brad, I kept coming up to the Gloo booth at Exponential and saying, hey, we're having Brad on the podcast. And they just kind of shrugged their shoulders. Who? So you were never actually seen at the booth. I never shook your hand, but there was some rumor going around that you might have been there.
He's his own shadow side.
I know.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a breakout session. There were only 280 different breakout sessions there. So
I was
probably off speaking when you guys were.
Yeah,
my guess. Yeah, no, it was a good show. Expo's a fun event for those who haven't been. It's really the one place where I tend to connect with more partners, more leaders, and especially planters. I mean, just guys that are starting up and getting ready. So we had a great team down there that was offering a number of different things from Gloo. And I know today we really want to zoom in on how are we equipping churches with tech, and we're learning some stuff too that we thought would be interesting. We can pepper in today's conversation about trends, especially what do your people hope to get from you as it relates to tech. That's been a fascinating thing that we've been chasing now for a few months.
That's awesome. We're very excited to have someone mature. I mean, you're even wearing a button-up shirt.
Is that the first time that's ever happened?
It might be. Brad, is that shirt tucked in?
I'm not gonna answer that, guys. But if you send me a hoodie, I'll wear it next time I'm
okay.
All right, Brad. Let's untuck that shirt and get in some of your background. Little note for the podcast: we're skipping 5 Truths and a Lie.
For the first time
in
ever?
160 something episodes.
Yeah.
And we have a new segment that will randomly be sprung upon either Toby or I. Let's see if I hit him first with torture Toby time, or he hits me with Baffle Blake. Brad, give us a little bit of your background, man. You're bringing some maturity to the show. We talked with you at Exponential, and they, what did they say, Toby, about him? They said he was a totally buttoned up professional. That's what's in the literal notes here, and he's wearing a button up shirt.
There you go.
Can you give us a bit of your snapshot of your background in church technology, and why did we bring Brad Hill on the show? Because we brought you on for a very specific reason.
Yeah, I mean, we'll keep this really short. I mean, if maturity, by the way, means old, I feel old a lot of days because I've helped pastors. I feel like 2 or 3 different rounds of this. Think about a new technology trend that was coming up. So one of the first companies I started way back in 1998 was church websites. And every conversation I had with a pastor was, I've heard of the internet. Not sure if that's real. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. So kind of get to go through that. And then it was cloud software. Then it was online giving. So along the way, I've started a number of different businesses, mostly related to churches and tech. Co-founded a organization that's grown pretty big now called Ministry Brands, and was there for a number of years, and then left there about 7 years ago and came over and joined this really exciting technology platform called Gloo. And we are right now about 200 plus people strong, based in Boulder, Colorado. And our job is to connect the entire faith ecosystem. So we work with a lot of churches, but also denominations, networks, city ministries, publishers. We're doing a lot in AI right now. And what we're doing at Gloo is exactly my sweet spot. I love to be at this intersection of the church, ministry, business, and technology. And, kind of be a chameleon and speak to all sides of that audience. But where those circles intersect is kind of like where I feel like God's called me to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know our audience is, most of their brain is in church production technology, but as all of them know, they are the chief solutions officer. So pastor is going to come to them and say, hey, our IT network doesn't work, or the TV in the nursery is not working. And so they're getting involved in all levels of technology. Our giving platform just went down. Help with this. And Brad, we also know that the church historically, at least I do, has been very late to the game, oftentimes adopting technology. What are some of the trends you're seeing that are really cool coming in technology that could be amazing for the church, but also ways in which the church is falling behind in adopting that tech?
Yeah, Toby, you sound like me. Like, Toby, you have an iPhone. Can you come fix this Windows machine that I have? I mean, it's you're the resident fixer. I get it. And I guarantee you guys are probably that for some member of your extended family too. It's some relative always wants you to come fix their fax machine or whatever.
Google it, Mom. Google it. We say this to her all the time. Just Google it, Mom.
It's not been that long since my mother asked me to fix her VCR. Like, not that long at all.
She still rocks a VCR?
Yes, she does.
That is very comical that she's using that.
So the thing is with the church, guys, like the church's relationship to technology has always been super interesting to me. And when we say the word technology, not to get too philosophical, but I mean, it goes back a long ways. The printing press, radio, TV, the internet, even arguably, all the way back, like why did Jesus come when he did? One recent discussion we were having was that there were Roman roads, and the Roman roads actually allowed there to be distribution and travel in ways that had not existed before. The thing is, though, that like going back to like printing press, this is fascinating. There were these German monks who, as soon as the first pages of Gutenberg's Bible rolled off the printing press, they were decrying this invention as the work of Satan. They were saying, like,
wow, this
is evil. Everyone knows that the Bible is only meant to be handled by those who are trained, ordained in the ministry. This is not for the masses. And so you have a reaction to a new technology where some flock towards it, some run away from it, and then there's a bunch in the middle that are just not sure. Right. And this has almost been the carbon copy pattern every time one of these things comes along. You ask me, like, what's something cool, a current tech trend that could be a game changer? I would have to say AI, I think is on all of our minds right now. But I think that with the tools we're looking at today with ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and all the other things that we talk about, we are so barely scratching the surface on where this could go. And my encouragement to pastors is, whether you're scared, excited, or somewhere in between, think of AI. It is a tech trend, but it's really a cultural upheaval that I think we're about to see. And so there's deep theological things to explore here, not just tech. And it could honestly be one of the first times in modern memory where you, the production tech leader, or someone else who's thinking about software, can really intersect the ministry leadership in your church and have one conversation. Because it's not just about, should we upgrade our tools or should we go buy another SaaS product? I mean, this is fundamentally changing the landscape for every person in our church. And those of us who work in the church are no exception.
Yeah, I know. I get to visit, 100 churches a year in person, plus at Church Gear, we end up at hundreds every single year. And we see all sorts of trends or, falling behind or whatever it is. And one thing I've seen a lot lately is I'll get a tour of the production system. I'll see front of house. I'll see the broadcast suite. I'll see, everything about their technology. And then so often there's this random closet somewhere off to the side in the backstage, and it's got a computer monitor and a microphone. And they're like, this is our Spanish translation room. It's like, okay, that's great. You're still, you're streaming. Do you have a Hispanic population that's listening? That's amazing. Have you thought of using AI to translate your sermons? And they kind of shrug their shoulders of, I know there are some tools out there, but we aren't really using them yet. Is that just scratching the surface, Brad, of what AI can do? Or is that, I just wonder how many of these churches should be using AI to translate their sermons into different languages, because the technology is there now and it's working great.
Well, yeah, I think you're getting at, just some of the plain English benefits here. It's going to save you time. It's going to reclaim maybe a room in your church, to your story.
Yeah.
I think we are scratching the surface. We had, for the last 2 years, guys, we hosted in our Boulder offices a pretty fun event called the AI in the Church Hackathon. We're actually going to be doing it again this fall. And for those who may not know, a hackathon is a contest. It's you bring teams together. It's a concentrated, usually 2 or 3 day period, and you're writing some prototype of an app you think is going to solve a problem. And we give the teams a set of problems to choose from. And then there's judges, and we had like real cash prizes awarded. Your story is interesting because our winner last year, the grand prize winner, was an AI tool that does live sermon translation into any language. And that tool is now on the market. There's a few others like it. We were blown away, by the way, just the creativity and the innovation that these different teams from around the country, a few global teams came in that are imagining the use of these technologies for good and the ways that AI can be used for something that's redemptive. The one problem I would highlight that we're really focusing in deeply at Gloo right now is that we need to have an AI foundation. For those who know, like the large language models and some of the foundational levels of this, those are today brought to us by big tech and by secular organizations that have just kind of scraped the internet, right? They've ingested a large range of content. Some is Christian, but a lot is not, and a lot is actually antithetical to what we believe. So one of the things that Gloo is working very hard on right now is bringing together more of a values-aligned platform. We at Gloo are not going to necessarily be the ones to build all the tools that pop out above the surface, but we're talking to, this is why we do the hackathon. We're talking to those who are building great tech and saying, hey, you can build that now on a platform that's rooted in biblical and biblically aligned truth, knowing that, hey, when you translate that sermon or when you create small group content or whatever other use case, it's going to be rooted in truth. It's going to be rooted in things that you can feel good about. And I think that's a really key element, by the way, to break the trust barrier with pastors and leaders that aren't early adopters, that are kind of leaning back right now, waiting to see if this thing is going to be worthy of their time.
Yeah, Blake, I went to DC with the family just over spring break, and in the
That's for your court hearing, right?
Exactly.
You'd been subpoenaed by Congress.
Exactly. You might have read about that on the news. Yeah. So we went into the Library of Congress, and they had a Gutenberg Bible. And it's very interesting to see. It's in, I forget what they said, what kind of Latin it's in. But it's just fascinating. And it's huge. Like, it's the biggest book you'd ever hold. But even, Brad, you're talking about how that was like voodoo magic back then. And all the Christians were looking at that and saying technology is evil. That, it's so fascinating to go backwards 500 years or whatever it is and think, oh, just like we're looking at AI today, thinking like this is some voodoo magic and could be, completely upending the truth of the gospel. They were thinking the same thing back then, which is printing a book. Brad, what's some of the research that you guys are seeing where, people that aren't in necessarily professional ministry are reacting to technology? Like, what are some of the studies and the way people are feeling about AI and new technology coming into the church?
Yeah, well, we've been doing here at Gloo, and together with our partners at the Barna Group, we've actually been digging into this, and we've been doing some research where we go around, we ask, for example, practicing Christians, hey, what are some of your attitudes around tech? I would tell you that the answers we're getting now are vastly different than what I experienced 10 years ago. Probably not a huge shock, but 75% today of those surveyed would say they're super comfortable with their church using online giving tools. They're really comfortable with their churches distributing content digitally and not handing out so much paper or books, right? Social media, using digital communications like texting. These are all sort of getting pretty broad approval now. And I know for this audience that feels pretty much old news, but remember that for most churches, we're dealing with like late majority, late adopters, laggards. And so the old adage that the church tends to lag behind in tech is true. But what we're finding is that the people in your pews, your congregants, because technology is so present in all other parts of their lives, they're almost at a point where they're wondering like, hey, why isn't our church caught up with every other part of my existence? Like, why would our church not use TikTok? Why would our church not be on Snapchat? Why would we not offer non-cash giving options, right? All those different things that we all exposed to in other parts of life. So the research tends to back that up. And I think that's an interesting encouragement for a church or a pastor. The technology is cheaper than it's ever been. It's more accessible, and it actually helps to close a relevance gap that I think we hear about from those outside our churches who wonder if the church is still relevant to any part of their lives.
Yeah.
Cheap and accessible. Sounds like us, Toby.
Blake, when's the last time you remember passing an offering plate in church?
I think the day that we threw them in the garbage like Frisbees, and they said, we're doing it online now.
It's so interesting. Like, I don't remember the last time we passed an offering plate at church, and I just take it naturally. Like, I do my tithe is every month. It's an auto, what do they call it?
Auto withdrawal?
Auto withdrawal, that one, Blake. And we just don't even think about now, but it doesn't feel weird. But at first I was like, oh yeah, where's the offering plate? Like, this is very strange. So, Brad, you make a good point. Like, at first we kind of have a knee-jerk reaction to this technology thinking, we don't know what's going on here. This is not the right move. Blake, you've been even hesitant to use AI. Are we using some AI tools to help us even edit this podcast now?
Toby, we use AI to edit the video for this podcast. We use it to put out every single thing we do for SEO. I mean, I don't even do my job anymore. I just have a program running in the background. I'm just here for jokes.
That's right. How much time?
You guys are real, right?
I mean, you're asking yourself that right now, Brad.
People come to Philo every year just to prove this is a real thing.
And Brad, do you feel like, in my mind, I think it's not so much like AI is going to take over, but people who know how to use the tools together, like a human and AI together, can do greater things than one or the other on their own. Do you think that's going to be true in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a long-held conviction here at Gloo on our team that the way God's wired us, the phrase we use is relationships catalyze growth. 3 words: relationships catalyze growth, and all that means is that, hey, we're kind of meant to grow in the context of relationship. Now, my parents and older generations, when they hear relationship, they always think face to face, in the flesh, shake hands, looking across the table. For younger generations, though, relationships more fluid. Like, the idea that a relationship could form on a screen is totally normal. The idea that a relationship on a screen could then sort of ebb and flow, like, yeah, we might meet for coffee, but then we go back to FaceTime, and then we come back and meet each other at church, right? I mean, that fluidity is very normal now. And all these trends then kind of beg, I think, just some existential questions. Like you talked a minute ago about online giving, and you're right. I mean, very, very few churches seem to be passing physical offering plates anymore. And a lot of us have it on kind of auto bill or auto pay. I was talking to a buddy the other day, though, and he's got a new problem with that. And that is, he's parenting, like he and I both have kids. And, as a Christian parent, you want your kids to grow up and learn about generosity and learn about giving and what God teaches there. It's really tough to do that when they don't physically see you dropping a check or dropping a $20 bill in the plate. And especially if you have it on auto pay, it's like, hey, kids, gather around. Let's watch the clock turn midnight so the auto draft goes in my checking account. So
Brad's got jokes.
Like, that's an interesting new parenting challenge, right? Yeah. Technology solved one problem, but sort of created another one. And again, I think pastorally, what a great, interesting opportunity to then challenge parents and think about, okay, we don't want to lose the convenience and the honestly, the deeper sense of generosity that online giving tools have afforded many churches. But then how do we deal with passing this on to the next generation who themselves are digital natives, but they probably don't have the same practice and ideals baked into them like we did when we grew up?
Yeah. I just have all the good things I ever do auto text now through AI to my kids. So they know every time, Dad made you a peanut butter sandwich. So, and Dad gave money to the church. So, yeah, they love me for it.
Toby's always looking for that credit,
Absolutely. Does it really matter if you don't get the pat on the back, Blake?
I mean, this is why I brag to my boss all the time about myself. All right.
That's true.
We just had review season. It's true.
Yep. All right. I don't have a buzzer, but
oh no,
it's time for our new segment of Baffling Blake. Blake, are you excited?
I'm not excited to be baffled or tortured, but I am excited that we have HouseRight sponsoring this segment. We appreciate them. If you don't know, HouseRight specializes in integration for new buildings and renovations specifically for churches. They'll work alongside your architects. Did you know that church projects have architects, Toby?
What? Why?
I don't know either, but if you got them, they'll work alongside them to create spaces that look great and perform flawlessly, unlike Toby on this podcast. And, it'll be great for your church's unique worship experience. A room that sounds great is more than just gear, Toby. Do you know that? Which is not good because we sell gear. I thought that would be enough.
Dang it.
But it's intentional design, and that starts long before construction. So Houseright will make sure your room minimizes distractions so the message is clearly heard and the space facilitates great worship. Also, if you're not doing a project, do you know they're hiring, Toby?
I have been shopping their job board every single day, trying to get out of church gear.
You and I have been have been doing the same thing at the same time.
What if we both end up at Houseright and look at each other and be like, whoops.
Great, let's just do this over there. And if you'd like to jump on the job board and, scroll it at the same time Toby and I are, just go to houseright.com. All right. Thank you, Houseright, for sponsoring this segment. I've delayed as long as I can to not get tortured.
So again, Baffling Blake, or Baffle Blake, stands for Baffling Blake, with bits of information about blunders, blessings, and boom mics bordering on buffoonery. See, I did it again, Blake. I'm so good at this. All right, Brad. So today...
hey, I just got a notification, Toby.
No.
AI said, Toby said the segment right. Getting your credit. I just got the notification.
I'm so glad. Thank you, AI. So, Brad, today we're going to play real or AI generated, and we're going to talk about pastor fails. So I have 5 pastor fails, and Brad and Blake, you each need to vote. Is it real or is it AI generated? And the winner gets a prize pack from Houseright.
Yeah, and this prize pack is nice. I mean, it's got like a mug. It's got a light in it. It's got some apparel. I want this prize pack.
Digico 338.
Oh, well, that's an afterthought. But it's got that too.
Okay, so let's go. Fail number 1, guys. Is it real or AI generated? A church's live stream software auto-captioned a pastor's sermon, but it had trouble interpreting the accent. Instead of Jesus feeds the 5,000, the captions read, Jesus needs 5,000 feet. Real or AI? Brad, I'm going to let you go first.
I'm going to say that is real.
Okay.
Dang it. Okay.
You don't have to say the opposite as Brad.
I'm also going to say
You're going to say real. Okay. It is real. So you both have 1 point.
Yes.
And keep track of your own scores. Brad, you can fudge the
numbers.
numbers.
Gosh, I have like 13 points already.
All right. Number 2.
1,000.
A pastor used AI to generate sermon titles for an upcoming series on spiritual growth. He went with the AI suggestion of Sin, the ultimate life hack.
That's AI.
I'm going to say hang on. That's fake. But if it's fake, it would be AI. So yeah, okay. I'm also going to go AI.
All right. You guys both get the point. That is AI generated.
Brad, we're really coming,
I know.
First time we've ever done this. It's 2-2.
Yeah. If you guys both get them all right.
It's good.
Yeah. All right. Next. A pastor meant to text a grieving family member condolences, but accidentally copied and pasted the wrong message. Instead of a heartfelt note, he sent them the church's volunteer reminder. Hope to see you Sunday. We still need ushers and coffee team members.
That's pretty good, actually.
That's awful. I'm going to lock that in as true.
What do you say, Brad?
I think that's real.
I think it's just an honest mistake.
Honestly, that's true.
We're 3 for 3.
I know.
Houseright's just going to have to send out 2 prize packs.
Okay. All right. Next up, during an outdoor baptism, a pastor misjudged his footing, slipped on the wet steps, and cannonballs straight into the baptismal pool, completely drenching the entire front row of the congregation. Real or AI?
People were in the splash zone. Wow. I'm going to go with AI for that one.
Okay. Blake?
Yeah, I want that to be real, but I'm going to say AI.
That's real, folks.
No! All right,
It's still 3-3.
3.
You got a final one here. Okay. A pastor was passionately speaking about old man eyes, sorry, about the small group ministry at church one Sunday morning, referring to each group as a tightly knit organism.
Oh, no.
Accidentally called them a tightly knit.
No. Toby, this is a sponsored segment on the podcast.
Yes, but they know church gear. They knew what they're getting into. All right. Is that real or AI?
I'm going to go AI for that one.
Okay.
All right, look, we need a real winner, and I want this to be true.
Okay.
So I'm going to say it's real.
It is real, folks, and it happened at my church.
Wow.
Growing up. My pastor growing up said that one Sunday.
I can't believe you haven't told us that. You still have a treasure trove of content in you, Toby.
Now, to be fair, I texted my parents this morning and said, hey, do you have any real life moments? And my mom said, yep. our pastor said that one. I was very young, apparently, but
thank you, Mrs. Walters. Yeah. But hey, maybe that is what, messed up your whole life. Maybe that's why you're so zany, is that one.
Yes. So, Blake, ironically, you win. Baffle Blake, you unbaffled yourself, but we're going to give the prize back to Brad because you don't deserve anything.
No, heck no. Out of my cold, dead hands, pry that victory out of me.
So, Brad, we're going to get that prize pack sent out to you from our friends at House Right. We love the guys at House Right. We love the work that they do for churches, and I have been to many, many, many churches that have used them as their integrator, and I've never heard a bad word uttered. I'm sure there are, everybody has missteps, but I just think our guys at House Right do it right. That's why their name's House Right.
Yeah, you want to get your house right? I mean, it's House Right.
That's right. All right, Blake. So back to nonsense.
Now it's time for Torture Toby time.
You wish. All right, Brad, do you have an opinion or even research on what might be the biggest impact to churches with technology over the next couple decades? Is it AI specifically, or is there, something more specific that AI might be doing?
Wow. Well, I think, next couple of decades feels like you might as well be asking the year 3000. I mean, how fast this stuff is moving is tough. I think, guys, for me, like the longer I've been at this, just some lasting principles are really key here. And back to that relationships thing, my strong belief is that we need to get back to kind of a mindset where we're putting the person and the growth of a disciple at the center of what we're doing. And every time a new technology comes around, right? So that this can be my fail-safe answer. We evaluate it through that lens. Like, how is this helping us put more growth in each person, helping us scale? Because there's that old conundrum. It's really hard to personalize ministry at scale.
Yeah.
AI is letting us do that now in ways that haven't been possible. Like a really simple way, by the way, that Gloo is doing this every day. We have over 100,000 churches on our platform, is having a mass texting platform that also allows for personalization. So we have a texting platform that's free to any church, by the way, which free is a great feature. And then you can upgrade with premium stuff later, but it actually more than doubles the open rates and read rates of your communications, right? Like, sorry to break it to you, but very few people are reading that Thursday newsletter email anymore. And so just something simple like, changing to a different modality of communication and texting has been a game changer for so many churches. But I'm excited to see where AI can take us, because like you guys were alluding, AI could mean suddenly you do have a Spanish ministry or you have a Korean part of your church now. AI can also mean that you can better analyze maybe families that are at risk for leaving your church, right? We can look at the data and get ahead of it and try to spend our time on the people and the families that most need it. So all this to me is like, how is this helping me reclaim time, get back to ministry, do less administration? So yeah, I think that a lot of AI tools are going to be very present for us. I'll give you guys one quote that just haunted me, though. I heard this on another podcast recently with where AI appears to be going. I don't think we even understand the amount of change about to come in the world. And this was the quote: in 5 or 10 years, the world around us will look more different from today than today looks from the 1500s.
Wow.
Which is hard to even understand. And we're not prepared for that because we don't know how to prepare for that. So I think, technology is becoming less about tools and bits and bytes and, things that plug in the wall, and really more about cultural shaping and societal disruption. And so I think as leaders of all fronts, and by the way, you guys as production tech and those who are listening, probably you're one of the most tech forward people in the building. The leadership really needs help sort of grappling, and especially at a translation layer of guys, AI can translate your sermon. What this means is, and the more that you can translate it in those terms, I think that's going to help almost future-proof your leadership and help your church really step forward into whatever comes next.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, full confession here. The only reason I started using it is I was scared of getting replaced by it. So I was like, now I use it. Now I understand it. Okay, great. Now it's my friend, not my foe.
And Brad, how do we learn discernment on, good uses of AI and bad? So maybe, production people are thinking, oh, it's going to speed up video editing. That's a great use. It's going to put subtitles on the pastor's sermon and it translates perfectly. That's a great use. Oh, I'm going to use it to mix front of house on Sunday morning so I don't have to recruit volunteers anymore. Maybe that's a bad use. How do we discern? Obviously the Holy Spirit's got to help us decide what's a good use of the technology and what's a bad.
Well, yeah, and maybe replacing volunteers is bad, but maybe AI can also help us better place volunteers where they're uniquely gifted. And, a complaint I hear sometimes from, let's say, business leaders who are part of churches is they get relegated to holding a door or serving in the nursery, which are great things, but really don't scratch the surface of what their God-given capabilities would allow them to do, right? So I think it's maybe probably not a binary like AI replaces, but kind of like Blake, you were saying, I don't know that jobs and volunteer roles go away because of AI. The ones who learn how to use AI, I think, are the ones that probably win here, if I can use that analogy. So how do we use AI in the context of our children's ministry? How do we use AI even in our church coffee shop or whatever those cases might be? And look, it's, it could be AI related. It could be even social media, smartphone. Like there's still lots of room for exploring communication. And one other stat, that research I was mentioning that kind of surprised us, Gen Z specifically, we asked them about the use of screens, and the old get off my lawn old man quote. The modern equivalent is, you kids are on your phones too much. Well, here's the thing. Gen Z agree. They actually say 59% say that their generation spends too much time online, and that they further agree that in-person relationships hold more value. And so lest we think that we're just going to be relegated to a bunch of robots serving coffee in the church lobby, it could also be like, how do we smartly and redemptively think about where online experiences fit versus where in-person incarnate relationships fit? And how do we help people move between those for optimal disciple making?
Yeah. And I mean, it's been true with technology and anything since the beginning. They can be used for good or evil. Let's talk about the internet, right. How many wonderful things the internet has been able to do for humanity, and how many just pure wicked things that have thrived on the internet.
I mean, the internet has connected sermons to people who would have never heard them, and it's also eradicated a generation of men with pornography. I mean, those two things came from the same tool. It's really just how you use it.
That's right. And we agree completely. Technology itself is amoral. That means it's neither good nor bad, but what we can all pretty much count on is the bad guys will figure out ways to do bad things with tech.
Yeah.
The question for all of us who are, fighting for the gospel and serving for the flourishing of people is, how can we use these things redemptively? And it is true that historically we've been behind, and some of that is for good reason, because we're thoughtful, we're skeptical, what have you. Our feeling right now is this time it is moving quickly, but we're seeing early evidence that the church is actually trying to lead, not just catch up, not stay behind, but actually stay in front. And the possibilities for how the internet, cloud, technology, AI are all going to help us reach and honestly solve more problems in the world with the help of the gospel and flourishing of people. All of these are think about Bible translation for a minute.
Yeah.
That is such a hard, laborious work in remote parts of the world, and AI is accelerating that, by some estimates 100x right now. So there's incredibly great ways this technology can come into play. So my basic bottom line advice for leaders everywhere is to be curious. And I think that sometimes it's easy to cross our arms and just be skeptical, or unfortunately look at the latest cable news story that comes out that talks about some scary use of AI and say it's all bad. I think the better approach is to be curious and say, how might we use this for good? And how might this actually apply to something our church is wanting or needing to do? I think that posture keeps you a lot more humble, a lot more in the forefront. And by the way, our research shows again and again that your people are grappling with this technology just like you are in their daily lives, and they're looking for guidance. They're looking for advice. So that's always our exhortation to pastors is stay curious, Doesn't mean you have to be an AI expert. Doesn't mean you have to learn what an XLR cable is, right? But understand how this tech could actually help and lean into that and try stuff.
Stay curious has been a motif of this podcast.
Yeah.
From a lot of wise people.
Yep. Blake, you're always curious because you know nothing about anything.
That is correct. That's why I ask a lot of questions. I don't retain any of it. That's the problem, but I ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. You're like a goldfish.
Goldfish, golden retriever mix.
Yeah.
Ooh, let's ask AI to put that together with my face.
Yeah.
That's Blake.
Wow. Brad, we love disaster moments, wild stories. Do you have just a wild, hilarious story of things going wrong or just general buffoonery that you can tell us?
Yeah, mine goes back a little bit. I don't know if you guys remember video wall technology, which, is a large permanent installation where you have large rear projection screens with mullions in the middle. So I was early in my career helping out doing AV in San Francisco and had a facility. And for the time, like video wall was awesome. This would be like the equivalent of, I don't know, 8K projectors, 16K projectors, and, whatever the coolest, most expensive stuff is. We had it. Well, I mentioned San Francisco, right? So not sure if you know this, but they have earthquakes out there.
A little bit.
We stayed up till like 2 or 3 a.m. getting ready for, it was a ministry event, and it wasn't a church service, but the next morning, went home, got a couple hours of sleep. While we were sleeping, there's an earthquake. So we came back in, and the entire video wall had just like fallen into the room, like completely just collapsed onto the stage. And it was like too heavy to lift. So we had to, disassemble it and all that. I would say the leadership was gracious with us, but because everybody knew there was an earthquake. But that was like, they have that phrase, act of God. That literally was like, there's no way around that. Nobody failed. But we wound up pivoting, figuring out a different way to handle the displays that day. And I think it along the way taught us a good lesson in flexibility and agility. But that has seared in my mind, that image walking in the room the next morning and seeing the video wall just laying on the ground in pieces.
Yeah. Blake, we've heard so many act of God stories in the church production space. And thankfully on this one, Brad, nobody got injured or killed because those stories exist as well.
I'm sick of the phrase act of God. God's not trying to mess up church video walls. This is an act of Satan.
There you go.
The creation is crumbling under the weight of sin. Like
That's true.
This is sadistic Satan.
Yeah. You could describe an earthquake as creation groaning.
Yes.
Yeah. The tectonic plates.
Also, everyone moved from California because they were sick of the ground trying to eat them. They moved to Tennessee and they're like, oh, the sky is trying to eat me. With tornadoes, you just can't get away from creation doing something.
Yep.
Brad, do you have any funny AI fails? And if you don't, we can, totally just cut this. But like Toby's organism thing really got me going. I was like, this is a thing that might happen a lot.
No, not really. Just what always cracks me up is my mother-in-law, who's definitely the one that I was always asking for tech support. She has somehow, someone against better judgment, showed her ChatGPT, and so that's become a problem for me. Is every day she wants to show me what this chat, and she says it very like she enunciates. ChatGPT showed me this, so that's my cross to bear right now.
At this point, Toby has become so one with his ChatGPT that he has a what's it called, a throuple, when it's you, it's the AI, and it's your wife. I mean, it's now a part of you at this point.
Yeah, I send a lot more romantic messages to my wife now when AI helps auto generate them. That's why you're getting nice things from me, Blake.
Hang on a second. Are you serious?
No, I'm not serious.
Okay, I was about to say, if that's true, do not admit that. Okay, Shelly, he was kidding. It's all good. No worries there.
I think it's time for a tech takeaway, Blake.
Tech takeaway. All right. Well, Brad, what's the hill? Brad Hill, what's the hill that you would die on, man? If you were just talking to a room full of production people, you're like, this piece of advice will work for you. This is my tech takeaway to you all.
Yeah, I love that question, guys. Here's what I would say. I mentioned earlier, I love to be at this intersection of business, leadership, technology. My encouragement to anybody who's doing production tech or back of house or all the domains that you guys speak to so often is to think about how you could do a ride along with the pastor, with senior leadership, like get into their world. Because I know that so often we all get frustrated because we get handed changes to the slides right before the service, or, there's last minute changes, and that can just cause us to pull hair out. Man, it goes a long way when you walk a mile in someone else's shoes or hang out with them. And it also can build trust where you can start to maybe have some light bulbs come on and say, well, have you ever thought about, and I think I could help you solve that. So I love the idea of, I don't know if you're ever going to get the pastor to do a ride along with you in the sound booth.
Yeah.
But maybe you could do a ride along with them when they go grab coffee with somebody, or, just go through their daily rhythms. That to me has always been a great principle.
Yeah. I love that. And for our audience, if you haven't listened to our pastor series, we had Matt Chandler and Darren Whitehead and Jack Graham on talking about the relationship between production and tech. And that's very much something we shined a light on that we don't realize, and we often forget, they carry this weight upon their shoulders as the shepherd of the church that is a heavier burden than any of us ever understand. So yes, a ride along, whatever that means, Brad, I love that, to just put yourself in your pastor's shoes for a day or a week and understand the weight that they carry. And then it just gives you more grace for those late sermon slides.
Yeah, and if they deny your request for a ride along, then just do a drive by. Take them out, take them out on the town,
to coffee.
Always dig 6 feet when you're burying a body.
Yeah.
All right, Brad. If we were gonna bury them with some good plugs from you, man, where would you like to point people towards so they could hear more about Gloo?
Absolutely. Well, two links I would give you guys. So gloo.com, and GLOO is how we spell it. Gloo.com is kind of your front door into a lot of things Gloo does. I mentioned the texting. We talked a lot about AI today, guys, and we have a pretty exciting set of what we call assistants. That's the word assistant, plural. And these assistants are actually pretty useful in a whole range of areas in the church. And we're always looking for more use cases. So maybe some of your listeners are going to come up with cool ideas or ways that maybe they want to deploy AI. We'd love to hear about that. But gloo.com has kind of a lot more information about those ranges of things we can provide. And then some of the research that we just kind of glossed over today comes from a larger initiative called State of the Church. And so stateofthechurch.com is the home base where Gloo, Barna, and several hundred other ministries are bringing together kind of the current trends in the church. So if you're somebody that kind of loves to nerd out on stats, or really just somebody who's curious, what is this far past COVID, 2025, what is going on with the church, Christianity, the use of buildings, generosity trends, generational trends. We're trying to cover all that on a monthly basis. And there's a specific link on that State of the Church site that you can subscribe to a text feed. And what we're doing there is just every month, we're sending out the latest findings, the latest research that we think is interesting to leaders. And by the way, if you subscribe to that and your pastor doesn't have it, you can be a small hero and say, hey, I got this pretty cool trend that I just learned about from the Gloo feed, thought I'd share it with you. So I'd encourage everybody to go to gloo.com and stateofthechurch.com and check those out.
Okay, Toby, turn your ears off. Brad, that is a really smart, honestly, tech takeaway that you're given as a bonus there, because there's a lot of good marketing newsletters that basically are like, hey, you want to be a genius? You don't have to tell them you got it from X newsletter. Just follow this newsletter and here's all your great ideas. And it's backed and you didn't have to come up with it. So yes, that is a good tip from Brad. You should jump on that. That's a good one.
Absolutely.
All right, Toby, you can turn your ears back on.
One other quick bonus thing, guys, that I'm currently just kind of fascinated by. It's not particularly earth-shattering new tech, but have you guys seen these NFC tap cards that are starting to find their way into the pews and seat backs?
Yeah, so several, I've seen little, they look like you should scan a QR code, but you just touch your phone to it, and it gives you access to all the, announcements and information in small groups.
That's right. Yeah, there's a great company that we've learned about and partnered with a little bit called Visitor Reach, and they have created these cards. And so literally what happens is on Sunday morning, you're doing giving maybe, but then you're doing announcements about the youth retreat or the summer trip or the women's breakfast. I guess men have breakfast. Women have lunches, and they meet at more civilized times a day.
Yes.
But you can reprogram what those cards do so when they tap the phone, they get details on whatever the thing is of the moment. And what they're finding is that they're actually way more effective than QR codes. So that's a super practical, by the way, physical thing that kind of enters the digital realm. So Visitor Reach has these cards, and they're not expensive at all. And you can even have mix them and have multiple kinds. So that's a really very actionable thing you could try next Sunday, in my opinion, and up the engagement levels within even the worship experience.
Fascinating.
Sounds like we might have to bring Brad back every couple of years for 5 fascinating facts, because this technology just keeps coming at us.
Yep, moving at the speed of light.
Yes, which is also the end of this podcast, moving at the speed of light. Brad, dude, thank you for coming on, man. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys. Good job winning the contest there, Blake. We'll do a rematch sometime.
Yet Brad gets all the glory.
Nope. That prize pack is coming to me. I want the flashlight.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next week for more absurd stories, tech takeaways, and overall buffoonery here at the Church Gear Studios.
All right, Blake, I've decided I'm going to use AI to regenerate myself to be your co-host on this podcast, but it's going to need to be on Zoom so that physical Toby can be in Florida just on the beach, sipping my fancy fruity cocktails.
That's perfect. Can we just make sure we turn up the niceness factor? Like, because you're currently at a 0. Can we throw it to 100?
It would be so funny if we threw it to 100, but then the AI slowly turned it back down because it was dealing with you over and over and over, and so it just frustrated it back down to a 0.
That's actually pretty good. And you know what else is pretty good? Sharing episodes with people you love. So you should send this episode to a friend you like and be like, hey, let's look at that report together after we listen to this episode and brainstorm some new ideas to be the genius of my church.
Yeah, maybe House Right will sponsor AI Toby.